Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Faith Diaries with Ari, and today we're in the awe of God. We're in chapter 21, which is called Desire and Power. And I want to start off with this verse from Isaiah 26:7, where it says, "But for those who are righteous and the way is not steep and rough, you are a God who does what is right, and you smooth out the path ahead of them." And so what I want everyone to take from this verse here is that there is a way that we sometimes see as right, but it often leads to it being very steep or very rough, and it's just not very helpful in that path. But if we let God guide our path and go and do what He sees as right, He will smooth out the path ahead of us so that it's not so rough and it's not so steep. And then I also wanted to touch on further in the chapter here where it says, if we follow the apostles' train of thought, it adds up. The Corinthian church was worldly. They were found lacking in their quest for holiness. To confirm this point, Paul writes a little later in the same letter, "Many of you have not given up your old sin. You have not repented of your impurity, sexual morality, eagerness for lustful pleasure." 2 Corinthians 12:21. Back in chapter 6, Paul starts out pleading for those believers to not waste God's grace, then interjects his love for them and asks why it's not being reciprocated. And then he returns to the main thought, how they neglect God's grace. And it was evident by ungodly people who influenced them. And I want everyone to really pay attention to this verse here, 2 Corinthians 6:14. It says, "You are not the same as those who do not believe. So do not join yourselves with them. Good and bad do not belong together. Light and darkness cannot share together." So we need to remember that there's a difference between the people in the world that are ungodly and that are not pursuing this righteousness or holiness or anything that has to do with God. We are to remain separate. There is nothing in common between the two. And that behavior can lead us off a path that has nothing to do with God. Our thoughts will have nothing to do with Him, our heart posture, and how we live our everyday lives. So I hope this can help empower somebody to understand that we are to remain separate. We are the light and the world is the darkness. Thank you everyone, and God bless.